BlogTalk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Chrism, and I would like to welcome you to another episode of Conversations about your Kundalini Awakening experience. And I would like to welcome you on this beautiful, beautiful Wednesday or Thursday, wherever you may be in the world. This is a program about your Kundalini experiences, and what my Kundalini has to say about the Kundalini Awakening process. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome my co-host. I forget the usual thing I say about her, so I'm just going to introduce her as Santara Kundalini. Hello, Santara.
Hello, Chrism. Hello. It's good to be here. I believe the time there in your beautiful part of the world is an hour earlier than mine. Did your clocks go back?
I'm 3 o'clock.
Well, I'm 10. It's normally 11 here. So I just realized.
We did have the fallback spring forward, so the spring has just sprung forward. And boy, if you look at the weather around here, you know, all the flowers are coming out, so spring has definitely sprung in at the beginning of March. So it's been a fairly warm winter here.
Well, that's cool. I think my Kundalini just alerted me to that fact because I just suddenly realized, it's an hour earlier in your part of the world, so I've just arrived. I can begin, though, Chrism, with how I usually do, and let everybody know where they can go to if they want to make a donation to Kundalini Awakening Systems and to support the work that Chrism does. It's very easy. You just go to the website. It's www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com, and in the upper right-hand corner you will see the donate button. And it's very easy after that. As we always say, there's absolutely no requirement to send a donation, but all donations are greatly appreciated. Indeed they are. So again, it's www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com. Thank you, Chrism. I'm looking forward to the show.
Oh, you're very, very welcome, as am I, looking forward to this show. But first of all, I'd like to welcome Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez, MJ Henderson. I'd like to welcome Manisha, and I'd like to welcome guest number 1719 and guest number 1745 to the chat room. And I'd like to welcome anybody who is listening on their computer or on their smartphone or in the future with the archives. Hello to all you future people. So today first of all, I'd like to let you know where you can go to get more information like this. You can go to the YouTube network, and you can press into the search engine window there, chrism.kundalini, and you'll come up to about 310 videos all about your Kundalini awakening, as you know, as pertains to the way we discuss it here on this program, which, you know, it is without a religious reverberation. It is without an overdependency on the scientific understandings. It is just basically information about the Kundalini that is given from the Kundalini for your maturation into your process, or for those who are exploring the process, to give them more information before they begin their practice. So you can go to YouTube. You can also go to the Facebook network. And the Facebook, we have a number of communities, one of which is Kundalini Awakening with an exclamation point behind it. We have Kundalini Awakening Systems 2, Kundalini Awakening Systems 3. We have Kundalini Healing, and we have Kundalini Radiance Community. These are all on the Facebook network. On the Yahoo network, we have Kundalini Awakening Systems 1. And we also have on the Yahoo network Kundalini Virgins and Kundalini Healing on the Yahoo Network. We are also in Google Plus with their communities, and that is Kundalini Awakening ! On the Google Plus Communities Network. So you have some options to choose from with regards to where you get your information. I'd also like to welcome Mr. Fashji, His Holiness himself. He just joined the chat room. Hello, Fashji. If anybody in the chat room would be so kind as to give us a little bit of a sound check. Is the sound okay? Fashji, Elizabeth, anybody feel like giving me a little bit of a sound check here so I'm not speaking too loud to cause it to garble or things like that? They don't give us any kind of a sound meter here on this. Looks like sound is fine. Thank you, Manisha. Thank you very, very much. And thank you, Bashji, as well. Very, very much. So today I am joined by Rosemary Goliath. As many of you will know, Rosemary is an ex-Mother Superior of the Catholic Church, and she's here to hit us hard with a ruler on our hands because we haven't cleaned up our room or Oh, I'm sorry. That was... Poor Rosemary's shaking her head. No. He's not saying that about me, really. It must be a bad dream. And Rosemary is here to give us some more interesting points about her Kundalini journey and along the lines with the topic that the Kundalini is picking. We are also joined by a lovely new student in the Kundalini who is visiting the ashram here for the first time. Her name is Anila. Hello, Anila.
Hi, Chrism. Hi, everybody.
This is Anila. She is coming down. She just came down yesterday from the far north land. And she is in active appreciation of a Kundalini activation, which has happened for her within the last 24 hours. So I would like to say congratulations to you, Anila. And with these introductions in place, Rosemary, could you take off that flying nun's hat? Yeah. Thank you. Sorry about it. I'd like everyone to say hello to Rosemary.
Hi, everyone. Chrism has this image in his head about what I should look like I was a nun in France or something. He enjoys that, so let's just let him enjoy it.
Yeah. I actually, when I was a young person, I was watching Sally Field lift off vertically from the ground with her cool little nun's hat there, and it just reminds me of that a little bit. So we'll go ahead and begin. In this conversation, I would like to discuss the family dynamics of what it is for a person to go against the grain or go against the religion of the family or the ideologies of the family with regards to their search and their acquisition of Kundalini, of the awakened Kundalini. I know that in my family, I am considered the crazy uncle, the crazy brother, definitely the black sheep of the family with regards to this, because I didn't really care to hide it from them, knowing that, whether they knew I had Kundalini awakened in me or not would make not a bit of difference to them, since they have no clue or idea about what the Kundalini is, and furthermore, they have a very, very limited interest in what it is. So for them, they're just like, oh, what do you do? Brother Chrism? They don't call me Chrism. And I'd say, oh, well, I give people information about Kundalini. Oh, what's that? And I tell them what it is. They go, oh, that's nice. And we change the subject. And so if anybody else has experienced that type of a conversation with your family, I invite you to call into the radio show at area code 347-988-5333. 934-0026. I would like, let me see if this is Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez here. Hello? Hello? Oh, I'll just put them back in the blue here. So, Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez, you go ahead and call the show up at 347-934-0026. We have Kunalini at the castle. This is the very next huge, wonderful, marvelous musical get-together. And this will be taking place in the great state of Washington, right above Oregon. And this is a gathering of Kundalini people. It's a seminar as well, but it's also a gathering of people that have the Kundalini, that have the awakened Kundalini. And I'm hopeful to see Fashji there, and of course we'll see Elizabeth there. We'll see Amelia, the Celtic queen of questionable comforts. She'll be there. Rosemary will be there. Hopefully Anila will also be there, and she's nodding her head yes. And so this will take place at Manresa Castle, which is a castle in a town called Port Townsend, and it has a somewhat of a mysterious history, being built by a very famous German businessman in the area, and he decided to build a castle that was somewhat reminiscent of his homeland, and so he built this Bavarian type style castle, and which was eventually taken over by a Catholic diocese, and then from the Catholic diocese it was taken over by a series of private owners, and it is currently a hotel in Port Townsend under private ownership, and there are various interesting dynamics to this place. It is supposedly haunted. Supposedly it's haunted, and it actually is. I mean, the Kundalini is very clear about that. From that level, we'll be able to look at the entity phenomena, say, with a little more charity, because typically these types of hauntings are from people that have had a very hurtful, tumultuous passage into death. And, maybe we will be able to give them a little bit of comfort. But anyway, I'm going to bring Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez on, and maybe she will be there. Hello, Elizabeth. Are you there?
Hi, I am. I'm sorry. Thank you, Chrism. I'm here.
Give us
I had
the
a stray
information.
dog in my yard. I was trying to help it go home.
Oh, you're such a sweet girl.
Oh, yes. So
you weren't at the bathroom, Elizabeth, no?
No. Yes, stray dog code for bathroom.
There's a dog right there.
Yes, that's my dog now barking at the stray dog. So anyway, but yes, so Kundalini at the Castle with Chrism Seminar and Shakti Pot. It'll be Saturday, May 9th and Sunday, May 10th from 9 to 6 each day. We have a special guest, Dharma Sound Kirtan. They're a Kirtan band from this area, from Bremerton, Washington, and they'll be coming up and playing after the first day of the seminar, and they'll be attending the seminar. And so I guess, Chrism, already you mentioned Manresa Castle, and I guess the registration contact then is what's left, which is me, Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez, and you can reach me at area code 360-732-7076. And my email is Dalton, DAULTON, GONZALEZ, Gonzalez.Elizabeth, ELIZABETH, @gmail.com.
Can you give that email again, my dear? It's a little long.
Sure. It's Dalton Gonzalez.Elizabeth @gmail.com.
Oh, very, very nice.
And
thank you, my dear. And from
sure.
Thank you thank you for having such compassion for the stray dog too. Thank you very much for that.
Sure. Thank you.
We take care of our fellow mortals here. And I would also like to welcome Mahadeva Sadhvi to the chat room, as well as Atlantis Seeker. Hello, hello. And so we all have different journeys that bring us into the Kundalini, and I would like to introduce a person who's had a very, very interesting journey that has brought her all the way from Albania on the Balkan Peninsula, all the way over to Mexico, and from Mexico into the United States, and from that part of the United States all the way up into the great state of Michigan. And I would like to introduce to you Anila, and she's going to tell you a little bit of her story. And Anila, tell me, if you can, tell our audience, what was the dynamic? Why did you leave Albania in the first place?
Well, my parents wanted to come to America for a better life. The environment there was not safe to raise children, so I came to America with my mother. We crossed the Mexican border and everything, and we got caught.
Oh, so wait a minute. We're still on here. Where did that happen? Yes. So first of all, why was it dangerous to raise a family in Albania?
Just the way that the government was. It was still a socialist party then. And there wasn't enough money, and there wasn't enough just circumstances and opportunities for my mom's children, for me to grow. And they said that the best way would be to go to America. But at that time, it was difficult to just go to America, because in order to go to America, you had to win a lottery. So we had to escape. We had to come to America illegally. And we got caught in the Mexican border.
So how did you just to because none of us, I shouldn't say none of us, but many of us don't have your criminal background. Just kidding. Many of us don't know. Why would you? Did you land in Mexico City, and then what happened?
I believe we went to different countries first, and then we landed to Mexico. And then from there, like I said, we got caught, and the police officers gave us the chance to go to America and continue on, with our paperwork, and go, have a lawyer and a judge. And actually, it's been almost 18 years, and we finally got our case granted, because Albania is getting
Sorry,
better.
guys, the sound. I'm interrupting. The sound has gone. You need to uncover the mic.
Oh, boy. Can you hear me now? Is this happening?
That's okay. Yes, that's okay. I can hear you, Chrism.
Okay.
Just with Anila, maybe the mic was covered.
Oops, sorry. Yes. Oh, where was I?
So you made it across the border by Mexico, and you say the Border Patrol caught you?
Yep, the Border Patrol caught us, and we were in jail for like 3 days, and they finally gave us the right to proceed to America, where we would have a lawyer and a judge. And like I said, it took us almost 18 years to have this case granted, and we finally got it granted, and now I'm in the process of getting my green card, so I could travel the world.
Wow! It sounds like quite the adventure, really. And so, were you at the time? Were you pursuing a Kundalini awakening or activation?
At the time, from
when you came to how old were you?
I was 9 years old when I came to America.
So I would say probably a 9-year-old wouldn't be pursuing a Kundalini awakening consciously, at least, maybe unconsciously. tell me, if you may, what led you to Kundalini in the first place?
I was listening to a public teacher. Her name is Gabriella Bernstein.
Go ahead.
And that's how I heard about Kundalini. And then I was just doing some research on it, and I said it would be a great idea if I joined the Facebook page. And I saw Kundalini Awakening, and I joined, and Chrism accepted me, and I've been active ever since.
Oh, well. So we're honored. We're honored to have you here, and I must say that Anila, she has come to the ashram. I picked her up at the airport yesterday after 4 attempts to meet up with her there at the airport. It's interesting. She was in the international departure area on a domestic flight that was in the arrival area, which is kind of weird, but we finally touched base, and I brought her back here, and we discussed Kundalini the whole way, and we did a little bit of practice with Her Holiness Rosemary, and she has awakened with a sore lower back, lower spine, with clear indications of Kundalini activation so soon. And I must say that she has been exposed to the Sri Yantra that our great brother Ed has given to the ashram, and this Sri Yantra really, really packs a punch. When you stare into this Sri Yantra, it comes alive, and something inside you comes alive too, and that something is the Kundalini. Throughout your life, Anila, do you remember your dreams?
Usually I do not.
Like, how many times out of 10 would you remember your dreams?
Oh, maybe 2 or 3.
And what happened last night after you were with the Sri Yantra?
I remembered my dream the next morning.
And she had 2 of them. Both of them pertain to the Kundalini. So it's very cool. Now, have you in your journey to the ashram here, have you had any kind of familial interference or romantic interference that would kind of not want you to come to a seminar or to come to the ashram here?
Well, yes, my boyfriend, he was very hesitant about allowing me to come here, but then he came to an agreement saying to me that he supported me and he wants me to do whatever makes me happy. So, but yes, he was a resistance for me coming here in an unfamiliar place.
Well, I think that's perfectly understandable. So yeah, and so you were able to find us on the Facebook group, and do you follow the writings on the Facebook group?
I do.
So you recognize Fashji and Amelia and Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez? Yep,
and Santera and Eileen.
Oh, very good, very good, very good. And I believe Eileen is listening right now. Hello, Eileen. So yeah, what do you think your family would think if they knew that you were pursuing Kundalini?
Oh, right now they're not happy with me because of my relationship to an older man, but if they found out that I was here, I think they would freak out.
Yes, as so many families would. So, well, I just want to say welcome to the ashram here, and it's been it's almost 24 hours now, so it's been a pleasure having you here for a day.
Thank you.
Now, typically, people family members who see their child or their spouse having a Kundalini awakening can be very, 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 as Anila said, resistant to it. Many times they'll call 911. Many times they'll want the person to go to the MD, and the person's not feeling bad. They may be feeling different, but they're not always feeling so bad. And Rosemary's had an interesting conversation with with her family, and how has your family's response been to your Kundalini exploration?
It's been interesting to me, and I would say it's not, my mother's been gone a number of years, but I have 5 sisters, and we're close in that we, I may have mentioned before, we talk once a month on a conference line. We're scattered coast to coast, and the 6 of us, and then we get together every year and a half or 2, and we're what we would consider close and what people would observe that to be. But I'm finding when I've really deeply shared about this work and invited them even to consider it, that there's something else there. It's not the closeness in the deepest sense. And that happened started something last August when I mailed copies of the Edge interview of Chrism. It's the best that I've heard him speak of Kundalini and to the general audience. And I mailed them copies, and 2 in particular who do a lot of a spiritual search work. I had invited them particularly to come to the seminar. And one of them was extremely irate just about it all. It just blew me away. I couldn't imagine where in the world she was coming from, and harsh and critical. And that has created just a lack of closeness, which really wasn't really close, but we imagined that. So for me, it's just being at peace about that and letting people be who they are. And I remember Chrism saying something in a parallel conversation about somebody just not being ready yet. And he said it with such compassion in his voice. It really has inspired me in my relationship with my sisters about this, and is to have that compassion for them. That's much greater value in my mind and even in my experience of it than being judgmental and hurt and offended and all of that, like that compassion.
I find it's really interesting, Rosemary, that you'll find a certain dynamic of individual that, can totally have this. They're fine with it. They don't believe it themselves, but they're not condemnative about people that are having this, and they're not, as you say, judgmental or hurt or offended, and yet there's another type of person that just is so offended by this, and typically it's a person that has their own belief system that perhaps in its fragility it cannot withstand another viewpoint, another point of view, or another level of spiritual investigation or experience, and these people can be virulent in their anger and in their passionate response to people that are going through Kundalini, and especially if you look at some of the symbolism with regards to Christians. The Christians, they don't like serpents so much. They associate their bad person or their bad spirit that they call the devil. They associate that with a serpent, and they associate the red apple, which would be the color of the first chakra, the red apple, as being the fruit of the tree of knowledge that Eve bit into, and of course that opens the gates wide for dominating women and hurting women, blaming women for everything that's wrong in society because Eve took that bite out of the apple. And it just goes on and on and on in that particular religious fold, but not everybody feels that way, and I think the majority of the populations are quite kind. As I've traveled across the world and across this nation a few times, I've met more good people than people that would be more challenging towards the Kundalini. I've met some very, very nice, very, very sweet, understanding, patient, and open people that would allow, you know, a Kundalini perspective to come forth, whether or not they believe in it themselves. You know, they would at least give you an honest listen and go from there. And I've noticed when I've gone into Minnesota, the Minnesota people, most of the people that I've met in Minnesota are fairly open-minded, and you know, that Midwest hospitality in this country it's a very real thing. And I've had some very positive experiences with the people of Minnesota. So I tip my hat to everybody in the Kundalini community in Minnesota, Steve and Julia and Joey and everybody there, Andrew and Trina and everybody that's in the Kundalini community in the Twin Cities of Minnesota. I look forward to coming back there, I believe, in next November. And I would encourage anybody and everybody who is listening to this that is living in the Twin Cities near Mankato, or at least about an hour away from Mankato, there is an exposition being put on there, an expo, and Steve Schumacher and Julia Rainier are going to both be there in person. They will be speaking of their Kundalini experiences, and they will be giving blessings there at the table. And I want to give a real, you know, hearty, beautiful burst of love to them both and to everybody that they are able to touch with their Kundalini. So good going, the two of you. Absolutely excellent going. And Rosemary would like to say something.
Next Saturday and Sunday.
Yes. This is next Saturday and Sunday. And if you'd like any information about this, you can reach Rosemary Goliath at rosemaryg@usinternet.org. .com. Excuse me. I had the ORG on my head here. Mm-hmm. So, my family was fairly benign with it. From some of the stories that Anila's told me about her family, they would be, I think she said freaked out, and I think they would be maybe really, really, really freaked out. But I've also met other people who have had their family respond quite supportively. Often with spouses, you know, between the two spouses, you know, one's active, one isn't. Sometimes a competition can develop there, who's more spiritual, that type of thing. But typically that requires a level of competition that's already existent within the relationship. And, you know, and so you can kind of take that one out of the mix just by virtue of that. Kundalini is such a rare event that people don't really have reference points for it. They can't really place it in any kind of a context within themselves, or certainly not within their experience. The only real context that we have here in the West that I think is most popular would be Kundalini Yoga, and so they assume that it's some sort of a Kundalini Yoga branch off, when in fact it's what Kundalini Yoga strives to achieve. Now, if you have any questions or you'd like to make any comments about your Kundalini awakening experience with regards to breaking the great news to your family, I'll suggest that you call 347-934-0026. If you're a parent of a Kundalini awakened child, or a child that is awakening into the grace of Kundalini, please feel free to call in at 347-934-0026. For the parents of an awakening child, it's really a good idea not to take them to a psychologist, psychiatrist, counselor, or an MD that doesn't understand about Kundalini awakening, because the very first thing they're going to do is they're going to diagnose them with schizophrenia and bipolarism and put them on very, very, very strong tranquilizers. And, you know, this isn't probably the best chemical cocktail to feed a child that is in the development stages. You know, just because they're actually seeing entities, or they're seeing dead people, or they're able to read a person's thoughts, or they're able to predict the future, or they're able to breathe underwater, things of that nature, just because it goes against the scientific paradigm, the current scientific paradigm, doesn't really mean that the child is crazy or bipolar or schizophrenic or anything like that. It just means that they have skill sets that are different from the norm, and you know, they need to learn more about those skill sets rather than have them dumbed down with chemicals. Now, this is my opinion, and I am in no way a medical practitioner in any way, shape, or form, and don't take any medical advice from me by virtue of that admittance. However, if it were Lasha, my cat, I would definitely not allow her to be fed any kind of a chemical cocktail that would in any way harm or disadvantage her Kundalini awakening just because it doesn't fit into the norm or, the bell curves that the Merck manual puts out. Okay. When you work medical, they have expected developmental results from kids at certain ages. So a kid at the age of 8 should have a skull circumference of such and such, or maybe have a weight matrix, with regards to his or her height and bone structure, et cetera, of a certain weight. And, the Kundalini child will definitely fall outside of the measuring process when it comes to the measuring of intellect, emotional stability, simply because they're getting far more input than most kids are. I believe Julia calls it neural density. And with neural density, the kids have far more firing going on in their brain, and when you get a lot of information into a young brain that way, and they're firing so hard into it, well, it can be a little confusing at first, and the parents just maybe need to understand that a little better, and give the kid a lot more of a chance to just develop through it, and let their true brilliance and their true genius come forth as the Kundalini makes its way through their system. So there is that. And so I will invite any of you that are parents of Kundalini children to call in at 347-934-0026. And I'm going to bring Santara on board here. Santara.
Here I am.
There she is. Hi. Okay, so have you ever broken the good news to your family?
Yes, I have. It's interesting actually listening there to Rosemary. I also have that many sisters. I have 5 sisters. I had 2 separate phases. I think a lot of people have. I had my activation phase, and then, which I didn't realize was going on for me. And then in 2007, I had the awakening. And it was after that everything changed. And what was interesting for me was my mom died in 2006. And my mom, I came from a Catholic family, and I came from a family that, was very committed to the Catholic faith. And my mom was very much the matriarch and very much into the dogma and the beliefs and the rules of the Catholic Church. And had my awakening happened, and even though I was, I'm an older, mature woman, my mom was still very much, I suppose she was still very much the boss, So even if I was to do anything, she would expect to be told about it, and she'd expect feedback. And she certainly would have criticized and have been very critical of what I have come to do since my awakening. So I realized very quickly that I think, I'm almost positive, I'm definite, my Kundalini waited until my mom was dead. That sounds so bad, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, weren't you in actuality rescued from a Magdalene laundry? Isn't that what happened?
No, and I'm not going to joke about that. So now, end of story there.
Okay.
But my mom, on a serious note, I mean, even something as simple as going to Brazil that time that I went to Brazil, or going to the ashram, or having the seminar that I did in 2012, you have no idea of the grief and the stress I would have been put through. And that did not happen because my mom, and it made it much easier for me to communicate then with my sisters. And my dad had a different approach, and therefore I was able to step out into, I suppose, be more public about it, even though it was difficult enough, even so, with my Christian Catholic family, it was easier to do that when my mom wasn't there. And that's just a fact. The interesting thing was, when I was away, I had my awakening when I was on a Greek island, and I was there with my sister. We went a few months after my mom died, just to have a break and a holiday, and that's where it happened. And my sister, now when we look back, we laugh, because I was so weird at the time, always wanting to be on my own. I stopped drinking. I didn't have wine with my dinner. I stopped smoking, which of course was not like me at all, and I was constantly going off on my own, and she just thought I was very strange. But when we look back now, it's actually quite funny. And one of the ways that I was able to, let's say, educate them about what had occurred, I used that DVD, that documentary, the Kundalini Awakening documentary, and that was a great segue into beginning to talk about my experience. And my sisters, in fairness, they were quite open to hearing about it. Now, one of them was quite fearful, but since then, I've said this before, Kundalini has been amazing in how it demonstrates its presence in me to them. Small, simple things occur, and bigger things like healings have occurred for my sister's children, and that has been quite dramatic. And they know it's Kundalini, because they know that I do Kundalini.
Can you describe that?
I could give a few. I can give one example of healing where my sister had been away. We had all been away, actually. We had gone skiing about 2 years ago to Poland, and we came home and we were in her house, and her son had been on his own for a while, and he's, 17 or 18, and he had a very, very sore eye. And it was all bloodshot, and it was, weeping, and it was very, very sore. And so she was discussing with him whether, he needed to go to the doctor. So I came and I just said, I can offer Kundalini healing for that if you would like it, David. But you need to ask if you would. And he said, yes, please. So I sat with him, and I just put my hand on just over his eye, and I went into the place of devotion that I go into, to the Kundalini and my teacher when I'm giving healing. And I can feel the Kundalini. The Kundalini allows me to feel the tactile movement of what it does sometimes, or it gives me visions and things. This time I felt it going right into his eye, and I had some very, very tactile responses myself, but I say nothing. And he said nothing, and then I took my hand away, and he just said, okay, thank you, and he went down to the room, down to the bathroom or whatever. And soon after that, he came back up, and he told me that he had sensations on the eye, and his eye was completely clear. The bloodshot was gone, the running water was gone, the swollen, angry eye was completely gone. It was that dramatic. And so he was, that was the Kundalini giving my sister in particular and her son a demonstration of its loving presence and healing within me and to them. And something simple as well that they're given demonstrations of, because I have spoken to them about, animals, and one sister saw a cat respond in a very most unusual way. And my sister's husband is very, very suspicious. He's quite Christian as well, and is very, very suspicious. But I will still speak about it, not just when it comes up. And what has been shown to him have been, it's about bees. We've had 2 family occasions, one in his house and another barbecue. We've had 3 actually, where there have been bees. And I've just spoken to the bees. I've just said, please leave. You can come back later, and I leave out food. for you in the barbecue, and the bees literally went away. The most recent one was during the summer in the house, where I put out my hand and I said, please go. If you stay, you won't be allowed to live. Just leave. And the bee literally turned in the opposite direction and left. And so my brother-in-law then, that is such a dramatic demonstration to him that he has to take notice. And so that has opened him to being more accepting of the fact that Kundalini is real and that it's not something to be feared and that it is of the divine. And it allows me then as well, when we speak about it, to be able to speak in those ways, and he listens. And there's lots of demonstrations like that with my family. I could fill a book actually about how the Kundalini has been that way with my family. I knew you were going to do that. I just knew it. and I just want to say to Anila, if I may, that when Chrism, and to everybody, Chrism says Amelia is coming to Washington, and a lot of people don't know Suntara is Amelia, so yeah, I just want to say that.
Well, thank you, Suntara Amelia. Kundalini. Appreciate that, clearing up that for you. Okay, so
yes.
It takes quite a bit of family adjustment for Kundalini children to be able to come forward with this. I know of a Kundalini mother, and you'll see her on the videos that I have on the YouTube network. Kundalini mother talks about what it's like to raise a child, or to see your child who's just come back, say from the army or from some sort of a organized governmental organization, kind of shell-shocked into a Kundalini awakening, perhaps after a tour in Iran or Iraq, and is having Kundalini phenomena, and the treatment for that person is really being drugged into stupefaction to some degree, and then when the drugs are discontinued and titrated down and then discontinued, then how the person opens up, and how they come into this level of superhuman strength and super capabilities in so many different areas of life, and I will encourage everyone to go into that YouTube channel there, Chrism.Kunalini, Kundalini, and watch that video, especially for those of you that have children, or you have, say your Kundalini is awakened and you have little kids around you, and what do you think is going to happen with them? There is a potential for awakening to happen to your children if you yourself are awakened. So consider that, and I'm sure there are other people here that are listening right now that have or know of kids that are, from awakened parents. Say some of the folks that followed Osho or Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, and some of these folks awakened their Kundalini too, because Osho, whatever his other issues may have been, he was able to put out some fairly clarifying information about enlightenment and maybe correct behavioral modes of having the Kundalini, and what you might need in order to get the Kundalini, and what behaviors you may want to adopt with regards to that. And I see Mahadeva Sadhvi is typing away. Fingers are on fire, because I believe she was part of that movement there in that city in Oregon that became Rajneeshpuram. So welcome to see what you're going to be typing. There she is. Hello, Mahadeva Sadhvi. For those of you that are on the chat group, she's saying hello. And a lot of people that practice a lot of meditation, a lot of yoga, and then you start coupling that with some fairly strong information with regard to the Kundalini or altered state, shall we say, that can bleed right on over to the kids. And Ma Devasavi says, yes, it's true. I was in the ashram in India, so she didn't get to ride in a Rolls Royce, which, I just want to say, it's no big deal. All cars are just four rubber tires that hold you up over the road, with different motors or engines. So anyway, this is very, very. It's a very interesting thing for families to enter into the dynamic of Kundalini and how they can be resistant and how they can be accepting. For instance, the woman who was watching her son come back from war with Kundalini awakening, and then see him getting dubbed down by drugs, and then to see him awaken, once the drugs are stopped, and to see these abilities come to him, and as he works through the karma and he works through the different levels of karma that were incurred, by virtue of the military service. It's very, very interesting, and I welcome any veterans who may be listening to this program to call in 347-934-0026, and I know a few veterans, as of late especially, have been calling me up or emailing me and letting me know, that they too have had the Kundalini awakening experience. They didn't seek it, but sometimes the trauma of war, and sometimes it's just time for that individual, and they may be some military specialist, and they'll have the Kundalini, and they'll have to try to place it into a proper context for them, say, within the military environment. And so that's always an interesting thing. And so if there are veterans who have had the Kundalini or having the Kundalini right now, maybe you're having a problem with it. Maybe you might like some advice with it. Well, the first things I'm going to tell you to do, I would like to tell you to go to Kundalini Awakening Systems, the number 1, so that's Kundalini Awakening Systems 1.com, and look at the menu on the left side column. It's the 5th option down. They're called the Kundalini Awakening Safeties, and I would like you to really begin to explore those protocols for stability and balance within the Kundalini Awakening format. So we have that now. Let's see, and we have, Ma Devasavi says no, she didn't get to ride in a Rolls Royce, and looks like Amelia is welcoming Manisha to see you here an hour earlier than the usual time. So everybody, the clocks have changed in the United States. As Fashji may tell you, Elizabeth may tell you, MJ Henderson may tell you, the clocks have changed in the United States. I think Europe is going to be another week and a half or 2 weeks down the road. So if you have any questions about your Kundalini awakening phenomena or equation, call 347-934-0026. Now I'm going to abruptly change the subject. The abrupt change of subject has to do with the power of the Om. A lot of people are wondering, oh my gosh, what kind of a meditation should I do for Kundalini awakening? And I'll tell you one thing that you can do is that right there. You can say AUM or OM. Either way you go, this is going to prove a great motivator for awakening the Kundalini within you. And make sure that you're even on both ends of it, that the beginning of the Om is as long as the ending, the humming part of the Om or the Make sure you do the humming part of the Om, because that's what's going to stimulate your 6th chakra. Another way, these are some of the questions I think that have been coming up, and let me have Santara. Yes, I think Santara has gone off to the airship. So,
yes.
So Santara, were you able to take any questions off of the group?
I have some questions, Chrism, yeah. Will I ask you them?
Oh, you were able to get some questions?
Yes, I had some since last week.
Oh, I see. Yeah, go ahead and ask them. And I thought some of them were pertaining to meditation. And
well,
I
didn't take
Let me go ahead and stay online, though. Stay in the red here. One of the meditation techniques, of course, is the Om, as I just said. Another meditation is just to follow your breathing. You know, feel what it is to breathe in and expand, and feel what it is to exhale and feel the expansion give in, and just follow that. As simple as that may sound, it's like, oh my gosh, I've been breathing since I've been alive in this world. But yeah, but just do it now with the attention on the breath and feeling the breath and allowing the breath to speak to you in a way of mindfulness and attention, and you might be very, very pleasantly surprised at what the Kundalini does through your watching and being mindful of the breath. So those two meditations, just for the virtue of this show, is what I'll go into right now. Go ahead, Santara.
Well, there was a question about breathing through the nose or the mouth, Chrism. So would the breath be in and out through the nose?
Well, if your nasal passages are clear, you don't have a lot of mucus or snot, clogging up your nasal passages, it is best to inhale and exhale through the nose as much as possible. Okay, but sometimes people have allergies or whatever, or cold or flu, and they can't do it that way. And so if you purse your lips as if you're whistling, so if anybody that can whistle, you just go, when you purse your lips that way, bringing your lips to a very, very small opening, and breathe your air in a controlled fashion that way, that can help a person if they are, if the nose is, shall we say, otherwise occupied. And that would be the only mouth breathing that I would recommend. Unless you're swimming.
Thank you.
Unless you're swimming.
Okay.
It's different.
Of course. There's a question about the Om. When doing an Om meditation, several separate times, I felt and heard a rushing of wind and an expansion and depth of my left inner cranium side. It surprised me and stopped the meditation. Any ideas of this wind and expansion?
I think you've all of a sudden muffled your microphone. Could you repeat the question, please?
I picked up my iPad. Okay, 1 second. Is that okay now?
Yeah, go ahead and talk a little louder,
okay.
But yeah.
Okay. When doing an Om meditation, several times I felt and heard a rushing of wind and an expansion and depth on my left inner cranium side. It surprised me and stopped the meditation. Any ideas of this wind and expansion, what it is? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Amelia. The wind is typically the Shakti Kundalini making her presence known. Many times a person will feel that breeze, kind of like a cool breeze, blowing into their face or blowing into their third eye or their sixth chakra, or blowing on their forehead, or blowing, as she mentioned, inside the area of the left cranium. And this is the Shakti Kundalini letting you know that she is there. And for a person to just start the Om meditation and to have this happen, well, that will be a big surprise, because, wow, I didn't have to do too much, and here I have a Kundalini response. Well, this is your time to have this. There's a person that has that kind of response so quickly. Well, they can pretty much discern that this is their time to have this, and it is a viable opportunity for them to continue that Oming meditation, or to continue any other kind of meditation, and the Kundalini will begin to develop phenomena that will help them to continue those types of meditations. Don't let the surprise of the phenomena cave in your practice. Continue with the Oming, continue with the breathing, continue with the meditation. If you're doing yoga and you start feeling this happen to you when you're doing the yoga, I know Anila, she's a yoga instructor, and she does a lot of hot yoga, and she does vinyasa yoga, things of that nature too. And this can also occur during a yoga session. So just to be clear about this is the sacred feminine making her presence known to the individual that is having it. And don't be afraid. Don't stop. Keep going. It's a good thing.
Thank you, Chrism. Is the next question, is there any way to awaken the Kundalini without meditating? Even if it's dangerous, I would assume the risks.
Oh, no. I know who this is. No, absolutely not. I will not give away information to this person actually is representing a military group. It appears if you do a little more research into this person, this person represents a military group that wants to learn how to awaken the Kundalini without meditation. And there are various ways to do this, but I will not discuss it here on this program, in this platform, or on the group, because they're not coming at it. My Kundalini says don't tell them anything, and so I'm gonna practice what I preach. I'm gonna pay attention to the Kundalini, and they will not get anything from me unless it's one thing, and that's practicing the safeties. Be forgiving, be kind, be loving, be gentle, be service-oriented without expectation of return. You can activate the Kundalini that way, and that's not such a hard meditation. Next one.
Thank you, Thank you. Okay. I'm just choosing here. Okay, last night I had a nightmare. Even though I wasn't asleep, suddenly someone caught my neck strongly. I wanted to cry out and I can't. I wanted to voice and it won't come out. I wanted to get up and I can't. Why did this happen to me? And after I slept, it happened again and again.
Well, you've been bad. You were not naughty, you were naughty, not nice, and so Santa Claus sent one of his elves over to torture you outside of Christmas time. What do you think, Amelia?
I think you should expand on that somewhat. Is it sleep paralysis? Is that what's being described?
No. Say it again.
Okay.
Say it again.
Last night I had a nightmare, even though I wasn't asleep. Suddenly someone catched my neck strongly. I wanted to cry and I can't. I wanted to voice and it can't come out. I wanted to get up, I can't. Why did this happen to me? Then after I slept, it happened again and again. There's
a certain level of terror that freezes a person up, and this is that terror. When you if you step out in front of a car and you freeze, that happens to many mammals. There's that microsecond that they freeze. Well, in this case, the terror is far more prolonged, and I've also had this occur when I've had certain levels of nasty entity come up behind me, and I at the time wasn't real cogent about what was occurring, and that nasty entity comes up, and you're just terrorized for a number of minutes, and this can seem like sleep paralysis. It has the same level of effect upon the body like sleep paralysis does, but this is not sleep paralysis. It just seems that way, and this is terror paralysis. And that entity, there was a discarnate entity there that was grabbing her around the neck and doing so repeatedly in order to terrorize her. Now, why did that happen? Well, we'd have to get into what the nightmare was all about, which she doesn't really explain. What was happening in the dream? Why was what was happening in the dream happening? What level of karmic influence is there? Is she still burning karma? Well, obviously she is. If she chose not to be terrorized by this entity, what would have happened then? How would she have been able to fend it off or to get it to go away? Typically, you can fight back with entities. You are not a victim to entities. You can fight them back. I remember one of the entities I had, actually I've done it more than a few times now, but I'll give you one. I had a black gaseous pyramid lower itself over my midsection. And I popped awake just to see it landing there, and I jerked myself forward, and it was like black smoke, and I was waving my hand through it, telling it to get out, shouting at it, get off of me, get out of my, you have no right to do this, blah, blah, blah. You know, and I'm waving my hands through it, hitting it and slapping it and basically displacing some of that smoke. And it moved off about 10 feet. And then it stopped, and it seemed like it was just there trying to figure me out. And I thought, wow, cool, I won. And as soon as I thought that, it attacked me again. It came right back me again, and I started waving my hands and yelling at it, and oh my gosh, you know, and it finally moved off and moved away as soon as I put on certain kinds of Tibetan chantings. I grabbed that cassette. It was cassette back then. I grabbed the cassette, I put it in the player, and I put the Tibetan chanting on, and boom, it left and never came back.
Okay.
But I fought it. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I thought I was going to say, you know, you teach to ignore entities, you know, to not engage with them, to form no contract of attachment, but you also teach to do as you're doing there. How does one discern when to do what?
Well, I mean, it's fairly easy if they're like sitting on your head. I mean, if they're sitting across your genitals, you know, I'm not going to say, oh, well, just ignore them, you know. You know, and at that time I didn't know about the power of ignoring them. Okay. That was earlier on in my process, and all I knew is I was being attacked by something I couldn't figure out, but it had resonance with the many, many different forms of entity that I had been exposed to since I was a little kid. And so I wasn't about to let that thing sit on my, you know, genitals. And I was just not about to let that thing even touch one hair on my body. It was that disgusting. Oily black smoke in the shape of a pyramid. No, thank you. And so, yeah.
Is another response to go into devotion?
Well, if I had known about devotion, yes, absolutely.
I know. I'm not being critical.
Really, if I had known about devotion, I'd have gone there in a heartbeat. Let me tell you what. If I had known about the power of devotion, it would never have come in the first place, or at least it never would have come that close to me. Devotion forms kind of like a strong barrier against, because a devotion is an action of love, and an action of love is a frequency of almost like material love that comes from devotion. And when your Kundalini connects to that, it's like a wall of love, and it prohibits a lot of entities from having any kind of an ability to attach to you that way. And so, you know, I didn't know about it then, so I was waving my hands through it, yelling at it, and something in me, and I'm going to say it was the Kundalini, something in me told me to put a very specific cassette of Tibetan chanting into the player and play it. And once I did that, I never saw that thing again. I saw other things, you know, the incubi, the succubi, and I also had physical encounters with them, i.e., I told them 4 times not to bug me that way, not to try to, you know, suck out my sexual, you know, power. And they kept coming back. And the last time they did it, I got so pissy at them that I slammed my head back into the pillow, because it was usually early in the morning that that the attack would come. And I slammed my head back into my pillow, and I intentionally astral projected right to where they were. And I created a big stick, and I just wailed on one of them. I was very, very clear about my displeasure about them visiting me this way. And then I saw the female, and my programming kicked in that you don't hit girls, right? And so I didn't hit her, but I looked into her greasy, it's just really disgusting. I mean, I can't tell you how absolutely disgusting some of these creatures are. Just amazing levels of, just not my type, I guess. Is what. Anyway, I told her never to return, and they may have tried it a few times after that, but I wasn't real conscious of it, so I couldn't say one way or the other. But you can go in and you can get them. You are not a victim. If you don't have the power of devotion, like Rosemary does, and like Anila is developing, and like Julia certainly does, if you don't have that, it's not an ability. If you don't have that comfort level or that trust to be able to be devotional, then you're not going to be able to build out that mechanism that kind of has entities just kind of wash off you like water from a duck's back. If you ever seen, what on earth is that? What are you doing, Amelia?
I'm not doing anything.
You're doing something.
I'm not.
You moving your hands at all?
I sit here in absolute stillness when we're speaking, or when you're speaking.
That's weird. Okay, well, I heard some sort of a scratching. Anyway, if you ever seen water roll off a duck's back, that is very similar to how a devotional wall can repel entities, and any entities. A lot of the entities, I'll have you know, they look like orcs. If you've ever seen any of the J.R. Tolkien movies, like The Lord of the Rings or the Return of the King or the Two Towers, that type of stuff. If you look at those movies, certainly some of them will look like the mountain goblins, I think they were called. And then you have the Uruk-hai orcs of Saruman, and then you have the whole messy orc crowd of the Return of the King. They look like that. They look like that. I don't know who did the artwork, but somebody was really plugged in to what's going on. A lot of them are just gaseous in nature too. If you've ever seen the television series called Supernatural, a tale of two brothers that are demon killers or something like that, and what they do with what the makers of the show do with the entities there, they just turn into a really black smoke, and that is so very close to being accurate. It's kind of interesting to wonder about some of these people that do this work, and what they're where they get their ideas.
Yeah,
it's very, very close, and some of them, some of the little people are real. The little people, they'll come up to you, and they'll, typically they're not the nicest folk. Even if you're in a nice place like a hospital, I've seen them. It's a real thing, and like, what is that? Betty Eady, I think her name was. She wrote the first Saved by the Light book, and she had the near-death experience and blah blah blah. And she woke up in the hospital and she could see these three little entities about 8 inches tall, various degrees of ugliness and anger and not the most pleasant feeling critters. And she didn't know about devotion either, and they just kind of walked away, I guess, from her. But not everybody's so lucky. These entities will come up and they will try to bug you. They will try to corrupt you. They will try to corrupt you any way they can. And typically, what you'll see them do, and Julia has seen this lately. Typically, Julia's here. Julia, maybe you ought to call in, Julia, since we're on this subject. Go ahead and grab that beautiful iPhone of yours and call right on in, and let's hear it from your perspective as well. They go for the spine. They go for the point where the cervical collar connects to the skull. Mm-hmm. They like to wrap themselves around that fifth chakra area there. Sometimes, certainly the sexual areas as well. They like to wrap themselves around that area too. So, a wall of devotion will fend these things off pretty well. Not only will it fend them off, it will clean them out of you. The more devotional and love-based you can become, the greater your level of cleanliness and that you can have from being infected by these entities. I tell any of my female students, they got a husband or a boyfriend, is like, say they're, addicted to alcohol, or they're addicted to methamphetamine, or they're addicted to marijuana, they're addicted to some substance that opens themselves up to entity interaction. It can be really, really disconcerting to see what is coming through that person's face as you make love with them. As you kiss them. What is it that is sharing the physical form of your husband or your boyfriend or your brother, your father, your girlfriend, your wife? I mean, what is it that's sharing the body with this person? Okay. It's very interesting to not, all these years, I really hesitated to say anything about this because, geez, I don't want to scare people. It's not, the idea is not to scare people, but since Julia kind of started breaking the ice on this, I felt, well, okay, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to have this occur. And yeah, they're all over the place. You're not gonna hide from the lower denizens of the lower astral that are interspersed within the physical. And this is truth. I guess Julia's not going to call in. That's okay too. Mm-hmm. But
one of the things with devotion too is that it's because it's love. Fear isn't there, because when you're in devotion, it's not possible to be fearful. It's just not.
Oh, I see it. Ma Deva Sadhvi is asking, can one use an item that a teacher has given to the student to help protect them? Possibly. You're talking more along the line of a talisman or say a blessed object. If your belief in that is strong enough and your devotion to that teacher is strong enough, then I think it could help. I can only come in to this from, I bless objects, and I was telling Basti just the other day, how you're given the ability to see into the molecular structure, and then the energy, you can see the Kundalini consciousness infiltrate the entire molecular structure, and that object is now blessed. So I'd have to say, yeah, I think it can work. I don't make talismans to keep people free of entities. I prefer that they not use a talisman. I prefer that they use devotion, because devotion is so much stronger, and it comes from the heart of the individual. So you're not relying on something that is external to you. You're not relying on a cross or a special blessed belt buckle or, like Sinbad the sailor. So I think it's interesting to really, oh, Julie is here. Oh, great. So I think it's far better to go from within rather than depending on something outside of yourself. But of course, if the teacher's Kundalini has gone into that bottle or that whatever it is, the Kundalini is the Kundalini. Now, is the Kundalini going to provide a form of protection? Where is your devotion in relation to the Kundalini? Are you just using the Kundalini as like, you know, mosquito repellent? Is it going to allow you to use itself that way? Like, oh, gosh, there's all these entities around here. Let me spray my Kundalini repellent on it so I can just repel all these entities. Well, I don't think so. I don't think that's going to be allowed. Okay, I think that the Kundalini is as much a teacher as it is a mother, father, protector. So it will teach you how to protect yourself. And one of the ways that it's been teaching people is through devotion. And I'm going to bring Julia on. She's decided to call in, and I want to say thank you, dear Julia, for calling in, my dear. How are you?
Hi, Chrism. I'm really well, thank you. How are you?
And I just want, oh, very well, thank you. I just want to remind everybody that Julia, Her Holiness, and Steve Schumacher will be at the what is it? Mankato. The Mankato Exposition. This will be this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, in the beautiful Minnesota town of Mankato. That's Mankato. And there you'll be able to see Julia in person. She will be speaking, as will Steve Schumacher be speaking. They'll be speaking about their own amazing Kundalini experiences, and they'll be giving blessings at the table. So thank you for calling in, my dear.
Oh, you're very welcome. My pleasure.
Now tell me, when you're encountering an entity that has infested an individual, what do you typically see?
It really depends. You know, sometimes I will see, actually most frequently, I will see dark orbs around a person, and I'll see that actually with my physical eyes. So it'll be a dark flash, sometimes coming out of their head or sometimes to the left or right, usually near their shoulders. And sometimes I'll see other colored lights around them as well. And so then I will look closer, and I'll start looking with my third eye, and I will often see a dark entity close to where I saw that flash. So often there'll be a dark thing crouched on a person's shoulder, kind of digging into the back of their neck. That's what I see most frequently.
Right at the occiput, right?
Right. But I'll see them on the shoulder from the front, but they're reaching around to the back and kind of digging in.
Right. And do you see them as a multiped?
A multiped? You mean many arms and legs?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes they look like a little gremlin kind of creature, more often sort of dark and furry and, small and, or bat-like.
Yeah, I've seen them with tentacles in the nose, tentacles in the person's eyes, their mouth, their umbilicus, the genital areas, the rectum, anywhere where there's an obvious access point to the inside of the body. I've seen them try to connect to. And tell me about this devotion that I've been talking about. How does that work for you?
Okay, well, I've missed quite a bit of the previous conversation, so forgive me if I'm repeating anything that you've already said. But what I learned from our experience in Sedona back in January was that, it's actually pretty simple. There's not a lot that you need to do to protect yourself from these entities or to remain free from their infestation. You just need to follow your teacher's instruction and go into that devotion and be really, really sincere about it. And understand that, you don't want to waver because you can be very vulnerable. These things are interested in attacking you and using your energy and things like that. So you just go straight in and you don't hesitate and you really, really mean it. And you visualize, you connect with every part of your being, your emotions, your mind, your physical body, whatever you can do to make that connection strong. And it works. And have confidence in it.
Trust it.
Yes, absolutely trust it with your life.
And would you say they look like orcs?
Oh yeah, fuzzy orcs. I mean, they. I don't know if this is Kundalini or if this is the entities, how they can change their appearance. But yeah, often they're really ugly and dank and furry and dark. And but it depends, because the entities I've seen in bars, they look more humanoid, and they look like these tall, thin, very sad creatures. So it really depends. Sometimes they look like little furry animals, like the one I saw at Yosemite. Sometimes they look like little monkeys, bat monkeys. It just
bad
depends
monkey.
on
Did you say bad monkey?
Yeah, bat monkey. I don't know.
Bad monkey. Okay, all right. Yeah. And so, have you had the experience of being up close and personal with a person that's being infested with entities, like maybe when we were watching Jesus being channeled? What was that like?
Oh, yeah. Well, there were quite a few people in that scenario who had entity infestation. And, often I'll feel it in my body, a kind of tingling, a sort of warning sensation when someone's talking. And I'll start to see the flashes around them. And then you see them, the entity often communicating through that person's face, through their eyes. Sometimes their pupils will get really constricted and narrow, and you'll just see that intensity in their eyes, and you just know that that's the entity talking through them. Mm-hmm. So I saw that a few times. And then, with the main speaker at that particular event that you just mentioned, then I saw the entity coming out of that person's head and coming into the center of the circle and working its thing, doing its thing from there.
Right. Now, Jesus wasn't being channeled. I don't want anybody to misunderstand, but they were, touting it as Jesus being channeled, and when in fact it was all entities being channeled, just discarnate entities, and they will just lie. They will just lie. They will corrupt in pretty much any way they can, and they actually serve a really good purpose. I don't know if Julia, you would agree with this, but they serve a good purpose in keeping you to your moral fortitude, to your moral compass. They keep you positioned appropriately, at least within a Kundalini context, with your ethical values, the values that the Kundalini appreciates within an awakening context. Have you felt that?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, it's sort of sad, because I think sometimes it can take a long time for a person to realize what's happening, because with the person that you just mentioned, there was a thought form of a Jesus-like figure above his head. It looked like one of those ancient Coptic encaustic funerary paintings of a man that looked a bit like Jesus. And that was what I saw at first. So I think he truly believed this was Jesus. But then out of that came that really misty gray form. So it's sort of sad. And they were all focusing on love and positive things, and yet they were being manipulated. So I think there needs to, people need to go through a process where they develop greater awareness to what's really happening, so they can really see what's happening. And I think if they have any negative qualities like pride or greed or a desire to impress or that kind of thing, that can kind of insert itself and be a barrier to their ability to see what's really happening. So it can be a long process for people, I think.
Well said, my dear. Well said. And how have you been doing lately?
I've had some interesting struggles this week, but it's been amazing. You're quite an amazing teacher, and I'm so grateful.
I hear the clarity in your voice, my dear, and a teacher is only as good as the student that is taking in that information. And so I just want to say you're doing great, and I really want to honor you, and I want to honor the sincerity and the level of awareness that you're achieving with your Kundalini awakening experience. And so nice going, Julia. Nice going.
Well, thank you to you and to your Kundalini and your wonderful guidance.
Thank you. And thank you for calling in.
Oh, you're very welcome. My pleasure.
And still feel free to stay on the line, okay?
Okay.
And so, there you have it. Now, as Amelia, Santara Kundalini said, that indeed, I do teach devotion now, and I do also teach people to just ignore them. The less attention you pay them, the less opportunity they have to corrupt you. But some of them can be very insistent, especially if you have a karmic scenario that allows them greater access to you, well, that greater access can lead to greater levels of a corrupting force trying to insert its will into your behaviors. And so be very, very, very astute and aware, like Julia is. Be very, very astute and aware at how, where, are you thinking of really bad ideas all of a sudden? Are you just like thinking about committing suicide or committing hurt on another person, for no reason at all? I mean, what's going on with you? And how can you keep yourself free of such infestation? And that's basically the role of you. That's what you are supposed to do. And one way to do that is to follow Julia's example. She gives extreme devotion to the Kundalini. She gives extreme devotion, and she's had she's been where the rubber meets the road with this. Literally the parking lot of an ex-Motel 6. I mean, hey, if you want entities, that's the place. And, no less, in Sedona. So she's had a very, very strong experience with this, and she has been able to figure her way through it with devotion. And so I would invite anybody who is working in these areas to find a level of devotion that they can have and they can hold. For me, the private students that are learning about the Kundalini from me, it's the devotion that I'll counsel them to do with regards to keeping themselves free of entity infestation. Next question there, my dear Santara.
Next question. Chrism, you often speak about the 5 bodies of expression. Where does the astral body fit into the 5 bodies?
I talk about the 5 bodies of human expression. So we're basically talking about the mental body, the physical body, the psychological body, the emotional body, and the spiritual body. So the spiritual body and the astral body would have a similar valence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it possible to activate Kundalini in the astral plane during out-of-body experiences?
Well, you got to understand, I mean, Kundalini is a very physical force. It's not, airy-fairy astral, astral Mary and astral Paul. It's a very, very physical force, and in many ways, once your Kundalini is activated, you'll be grounded. You won't be able to astral project. So I'm not going to say it's impossible. You know how I feel about absolutism, but I'll say it's not likely. Anything is possible, but I'm not going to give it a strong level of probability of activating a physical-based Kundalini consciousness while one is in the astral state. No, not at all. But, like I say, anything is possible. And I suppose, that is just another of the possible probabilities that may not be so feasible. Now, what else can happen is you can be infested with an entity in the astral state, and that entity can be making you think that you're activating your Kundalini, and so you may want to really look to see what you're doing in the astral state and what you're attracting, and why you might want to think that you're being activated by with the Kundalini in the astral state. But once again, I won't say that it's impossible.
Okay, thank you. Does solar eclipse have any effect on the Kundalini?
Well, a lot of people are going to say, the full moon affects my Kundalini this way, and a lunar eclipse affects my Kundalini this way, and oh my God, did you feel the solar eclipse and how it affected my Kundalini that way? So I suppose if a person, is looking to be so amazingly sensitive that that yes, the solar or the lunar eclipses will affect them in a certain way, and then you'll have the blue star Kachina asteroid that goes by, or Halley's Comet goes by, and my Kundalini's going crazy. No, doesn't affect mine. Let's put it that way. The moon and the sun, the solar and the lunar, to me, they represent aspects of the Kundalini. Does it represent an awakened Kundalini when the moon and the sun come together in those types of ways? No, not to me. But then again, everybody's different. Everybody has a different reason for saying the things that they say. But within my Kundalini awakening, the sun can do what it needs to do. The moon will do what it needs to do. The asteroids will do what they need to do. And the stars and the galaxies will do what they need to do. It's not so much a conduit of activation or tactility for the Kundalini per se, because if you were to say that oh gosh, the lunar eclipse or the solar eclipse does this to my Kundalini, well then think of, because you're at one with everything with Kundalini, so you're at one with all the planets and all the stars all over the place, all over the multi-dimensional multiverse. So in that sense, how could you, you're not just part of the terrestrial system. You're one of a quadrillion and more systems. And sometimes those planets those lunar bodies are passing in front of that sun anywhere in the universe. And so, you'd be constantly affected. Kundalini isn't just about terrestrial life forms. It's not just about that. It's all over the place. It represents every level of physical formation, every level of celestial formation, every level of planetary alignment, everywhere, outside of the solar system included. So, for me and mine, no, absolutely not. I accept it as much of an effector on my Kundalini as a person lifting a finger and pushing a star. Okay.
Okay, thank you. What, let me see. Does Kundalini make one sleepy at times?
Sleepy?
Yeah.
What do you mean? No. I got the two students right here. They're fast asleep. I think my voice of it.
Yes, the person goes on to say.
I think I have the sonorous quality. It's time to go to sleep. Chrism's talking. Kundalini will definitely make you go to sleep. Definitely make you go to sleep. Sometimes it'll be a quick cat nap. Sometimes it'll be 14 hours straight. Kundalini will put you to sleep so that it can do its work on you. And it, when you are asleep, your ego is no longer in control. And the Kundalini can do what it needs to do to the body without your ego getting in the way. So if you find yourself all of a sudden narcoleptic, well, there's a good reason for that within a Kundalini context. Yes.
Oh, that's yes. That makes, I see. Okay. What is the difference between Kundalini awakening and pranotana, if I'm pronouncing that correctly?
Pranotana is just another word for activation. It's the activation sequence that starts from the inner urge to seek out spiritual material, to begin to look for a teacher, to find it. And I'm going to bring Julia on board here again. Julia, hello.
Hello.
Yeah,
can you hear me?
You remember that urge that you had when you were exploring different spiritual understandings, different levels of spiritual grace, and you were looking for teachers, or you were looking for books, you were looking for any kind of information, right?
Oh, absolutely. It was almost like obsessive compulsive. Yeah, constantly for years and years. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the activation. That's the Kundalini coming in and guiding a person's hands to reach for a certain book, even to the point of knocking a certain book off the shelf because they're just so clueless about what it is, the Kundalini wants them to read. And if you look at your scenario, Julia, you were really taken to some very specific places with this, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it led you into mystical Christianity, did it not?
It did, but I was so intensely into the Christianity that I was asked to be a Sunday school teacher. I was so intensely into the Buddhism that my Lama was asking me to teach. I mean, it's not just a passive interest, it's very active, and you're just trying to find everything you can, that's of use that you can use. Exactly.
And this would be what the Sanskrit term pranapana is really applying to. Thank you, Julia. Thank you. And please stay on.
Okay.
So yeah, and just as Julia had, I had the same darn thing. I was led to T. Lobsang Rampa, even though that was channeled material. At the time, I wasn't so down on channeled material because I didn't realize that it was, I didn't understand the whole dynamic of entities just basically pumping lies into people just because they're able to. I didn't really understand the dynamic of corruption at the time, and so, but even so, even with that channeled information, that really gave me a lot of permission to explore, permission to expand my mental and emotional horizons, and to really push myself further and further and further. And from there, I went to astral projection, and I was reading Scott Rogo and Robert Monroe, and some of the other early pioneers of the art and the practice of astral projection or out of body experiences. And I became obsessed, as Julia says. I became obsessed with astral projection, and I was able to do it in just a matter of weeks. Even though I had been given training by little people when I was a younger child, I couldn't remember, when I was 26, what the instructions were so clearly from the little ones, who literally showed me that I could do this. I just knew I could do it. I just couldn't remember the instructions, and so I went into this big overdrive obsession for any material that really gelled with me with regarding to astral projection. And one of these days, I'm going to have His Holiness Fastji come on the show, and maybe perhaps he'd be willing to talk about some of his experiences with astral projection. And so yeah, the pranapana is that urge. It is that desire to learn, that you must learn. It's not that you just want to learn. You must learn. And then the closer you get to the top of that activation mountain, the more fast and furious you become about it. I can't tell you the size of the library I collected. Of all the different, the emerald tablets and the Tree of Life and Zohar's Encyclopedia of Spiritual Phenomena. All these different things, and getting into, Bremelin the Mage and some of these other things, it's just really, really, really reaching and that led me also to the Huna technologies, the Huna spiritual technologies from Max Freedom Long, which I still honor to this day as being, some of the. Going to go into bliss here just a second. Oh, it's so difficult to speak when one goes into bliss. Some of you may be able to feel this, Amelia and Julia. Oh, yeah. Okay. The pranapana is that activation stage that really is driving you towards your awakening, driving you towards getting that teacher, getting that practice, getting that momentum moving so that you can move into that first primary spinal sweep. That's the pranapana.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What is the mission of Kundalini?
To seek out new life and new civilizations. To boldly go where no one has gone before.
Oh, that always makes me smile, because when I have my awakening, that is exactly my visuals of what happened. Anyway.
The mission of Kundalini is the enlightenment of the flesh and all bodies associated with the flesh body. So it's emotional enlightenment, it's mental enlightenment, it's physical enlightenment, it's psychological enlightenment, it's spiritual enlightenment, all at the same time.
Thank you. I think that's the end. That was 10 questions. Yes, I'm done. Chrism, let me just see.
Thank you for taking the time, and I want to thank, I'm going to go ahead and end the program today, so I would like to thank my guests, Julia and Rosemary and Anila, for joining us on the program today. I would like to thank everybody in the chat room, Manisha, Madeva Sadvi, MJ Henderson, guest 1719, Fashti. I'd like to thank Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez, and I'd like to repeat that the Kundalini at the Castle is going to be held May 8th and 9th at the Manresa Castle in Port Townsend, Washington State. And if you want to get information about this, go to, I believe it's Dalton Gonzalez, Elizabeth, or Dalton Gonzalez .Elizabeth at gmail.com. I'm going to have to write that down. But anyway, Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez, you can reach her on the Facebook. She's Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez there. And she has the information. Oh, she's typing it right now, so I'm going to wait for that. I would like to see as many of you as possible at, here we are. Oh, I was sort of right.
You were right.
I was?
Yeah.
Yeah, her email
Dalton
is
Elizabeth.
Dalton Gonzalez .Elizabeth. Dalton Gonzalez .Elizabeth
at gmail.com. At gmail.com.
Oh, it's at? It's not two?
Yeah, that's an at. She's just hitting the two by mistake. Yeah.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Yeah, Dalton
Gonzalez .Elizabeth at gmail.com.
Dalton Gonzalez .Elizabeth at gmail.com, ladies and gentlemen. Come to Washington State. It's a beautiful place. Manresa Castle is a gorgeous, gorgeous place to have a Kundalini Awakening seminar. We'll be joined by a musical group there that will be doing some very interesting music.
Dharma Sound.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dharma Sound. And it will be a very, very beautiful, very, very amazing weekend. And so I would like to encourage everybody to come. I hope to see you back.
What weekend is it, Chrism? The 9th and 10th, is it, of May?
I believe it's let me look here, but I believe it's, coming over here.
It's that weekend anyway of the 9th. I know the 9th
it's the 9th,
of May.
The 9th and the 10th. The 9th and the 10th of May. Okay? And I'll be there, a good portion of May before then, with Amelia, with Rosemary, hopefully with Anila, and as many other people that want to come and come. We'll be doing talks all over the area. It should be a really, really good time, and I look forward to meeting and greeting as many of you as possible. And so once again, thank you, Santara. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, Chrism, thank you for the show. Just to say, I'm really looking forward to the seminar and to meeting Elizabeth for the first time, and other Kundalini people that from Facebook that I know are going to be there, meeting those people for the first time, meeting new people and being with you again. And I'm excited. I'm really looking forward.
And I believe Julia will also be there, and Eileen Nora will also be there. So we'll have the whole family together. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Eileen, for calling in. Thank you, Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez. Thank you, everybody in the chat room. Thank you for those listening on their smartphones and computers. And thank you to you, future people listening in the archives. We will see you this time next week. Bye-bye.